everyone, it's Skiesti and welcome back to the 5th part of our Mercy Guide series. Today we're going to be going over decision making and prioritization, specifically in regards to Mercy's damage boost, her healing, and her pistol. Making decisions as Mercy is vital, and if you make the wrong ones, you can be punished, and as a result, your team can suffer. Mercy supports everyone on her team, so you'll have to make decisions at each moment in the game to give your team as much support as they need, where and when it's most appropriate. Figure out who on your team benefits the most from your help, and decide, depending on the situation at the moment, who to pocket and protect. Like I stated before, I'll cover decision making and prioritization for each part of Mercy's kit. This video is going to be separated into 2 parts. So the first part, as I mentioned, is going to be her damage boost, her healing, and her pistol. And the second part is going to be Resurrection and Valkyrie. Before that, we'll talk about general prioritization. Depending on the situation and part of Mercy's kit that you're dealing with, the prioritization will be different. If you really want to simplify Mercy's prioritization though, you can use this format. So your general prioritization will go DPS, second support, tanks. To explain this, I'll go into detail about how it should look. Your default state is to damage boost your DPS and swap to healing when they take damage. At the same time as you're doing this, you need to keep an eye on your second support to make sure they're topped off and alive so that they're able to heal your tanks. Don't be afraid to leave your DPS temporarily to give your second support care if they need it. Tanks come in last as they're mostly the responsibility of your second support as long as they're a main healer, so you don't have to worry as much about them as Mercy, who is a pocket healer. Do note, though, to be aware, if your tanks are being pushed or taking too much damage, you might have to spare some attention to them. You'll still have to keep your eye on your DPS and be aware of where they are, what their health is, and if they need help. Getting into it, we'll start with Mercy's damage boost. Damage boost in Mercy's current state is perhaps the most important part of her kit. If you're playing Mercy, you need to get value out of damage boost. A good way to practically guarantee value is by using the default state that we've mentioned previously. Additionally, a rule of thumb is that once someone is healed to full, unless you believe they're going to take a lot of damage in the moments following, you should swap to damage boost immediately. Don't waste time healing targets that are already full health. You'll end up missing out on value in other aspects of Mercy's kit if you do. How does Mercy's damage boost work? Mercy must be damage boosting her ally when the projectile is fired. After it's fired, it'll be boosted regardless of if you disconnect the beam or not before it lands. What can be boosted? Almost anything can be damage boosted except for Riptire, which is Junkrat's ult, Self-Destruct, which is Diva's ult, Dragon Strike, which is Hanzo's ult, Junkrat Trap, and turrets, meaning Symmetra's sentry turrets, and Torbjorn's deployable turret. We'll talk briefly about specifications to what's damage boosted. So for Ashe, her ult Bob can be damage boosted by connecting your beam to him, not her. Hanzo's ultimate arrow can be boosted, but the dragons cannot. The lift of Sigma's ult can be boosted, however the slam cannot.
Good game.
The impact damage of Torbjorn's ult can be boosted, but the damage over time cannot. Widowmaker's Venom Mine cannot be boosted, Wrecking Ball's Minefield cannot be boosted. The impact of Zarya's ult can be boosted, but the damage over time cannot. For additional information on what can be damage amplified, I will put Overwatch's Gamepedia damage amplification link down below. So moving on, who do you prioritize with damage boost? Anyone in the game is capable of being a good damage boost target with the right timing and knowledge about when and what to damage boost on your part. This is important to remember if you don't have an obvious hero to pocket. However, since Mercy is a pocket healer, your default damage boost target will be a DPS player as they benefit from damage boost the most. From there, between the 2 DPS on your team, choose the one that will get the most value and be most effective to be your default damage boost target. Usually you'll be able to tell which DPS is performing better and will provide the most damage, or who will benefit more in general. For example, if you've got a McCree and a Doomfist, you're going to be pocketing the Cree for the most part. Really quick before we move on, we will talk a little bit about tips for who and when to damage boost. 1. If someone is at full health, don't heal them, swap to damage boost. 2. Be aware of who does what damage and at what range to determine who is most effective to damage boost. 3. Damage boost if your team pushes out past choke at the start of defense rounds for initial damage. 4. Damage boost abilities such as Reinhardt's Fire Strike, Charge, Roadhog's Hook, Ash's Dynamite, etc. Her abilities can benefit a lot from damage boost if timed correctly. 5. Damage boost D.Va if she doesn't have her mech to get it back quicker. 6. Damage boost when enemies are stalling point to kill them quicker and cap. 7. Damage boost when the fight is already over and your team is cleaning up remaining enemies. This allows your second healer to get ult charge from healing, or you can take it yourself. If you're in Valk, wait until it ends and then heal to charge your next Valk. 8. Damage boost to help finish off kills in 1v1s quicker. 9. Damage boost to build ults quicker. 10. If you have an off support, damage boost while defensive ultimates are in play, as mostly everyone should be healed. And finally, 11. If the enemy Ana gets an anti, swap to damage boost. A good trick for this is to damage boost for 3 seconds, then swap to healing on the 4th second. The anti should be gone by that time. On the other side of Mercy's staff is her option to heal her teammates. There's really not a lot to talk about here, since healing is pretty straightforward, so I'll touch on it really briefly. Since Mercy's healing per second was reduced to 50 HPS from 60 HPS, but is now set at 55 HPS, it doesn't offer as much value as her damage boost does. That being said, you should utilize it when it's appropriate and necessary. If you're paired with an off healer, you'll have to main heal, which means making her healing work by juggling her beam, which we discussed earlier in the beam management section. In her most optimal situation, alongside a main healer, your main healer will be able to take care of the tanks while you care for your DPS and your second support. When you're deciding who to prioritize when healing, look where your teammates are positioned and what their current health is. If a teammate is overextending, pushing up past chokes or shields, try to assist them from a safe distance, and remember to be max beam range away. If you have an escape route and can guarantee that if something happens to them, you can get out and live, then you can push up with them a bit. You'll have to decide, though, how far you're willing to go with them. If they go too far, you'll need to decide to save them or let them die and retreat. Use your best judgment in the moment, and remember to play selfishly. You should never be willing to die with or for an ally. You should value your own life above theirs. A couple of things to keep in mind. 1. Prioritize squishies and those who are critical when you're juggling heals. Keep an eye on your tanks and make sure that they are stable at the same time or won't die if they take damage while you're healing someone else. 2. Listen to when allies take damage. They'll make a noise that indicates their position if you've lost track of them. You can also find their position if they use the "I need healing" communication line. And hopefully they don't use it obnoxiously. 3. Try to be generally aware of where your teammates are positioned and the amount of health they have, and be ready to aid in a moment's notice. And 4. If any of your allies has a bit of health missing, your second healer will generally take care of it, so you can continue to do your thing. If they don't, or haven't, then you can take a moment and heal them. Moving on to the last section for this video is Battle Mercy. Generally, don't do it. It takes Mercy time to swap from her staff to her blaster, which in turn lessens the uptime of your beam usage. In those seconds you swap to your pistol and then back to your staff, you can lose out on the opportunity to heal or damage boost, and perhaps would have gotten more value from that than taking out your pistol, which isn't always guaranteed to bring value. Instead of taking matters into your own hands as Mercy with your pistol, it's normally better to leave it to the rest of your team and utilize damage boosts to enable them. You'll also both get alt charge as long as their shots, abilities, etc. land. Additionally, if your team requires healing, it's easier to swap from your damage boost to healing compared to from your pistol back to your staff to heal. If you do decide to use the pistol though, know when to stop if it's not working. If you're unable to secure a kill, you should leave it. With that said, there are a couple of situations where bringing out your pistol is acceptable. What are these situations, you might ask? I'll let you know. The first one is if you need to defend yourself. The second one is to get the last percentage of your ultimate. The third one is if no allies are around. The fourth one is if you're walking back from spawn. The fifth one is for destroying turrets or other objects your team isn't, if you can afford to take a moment to do this. And lastly, 6, to get the killing blow on critical enemies that your team can't reach or secure. You need to be sure you'll guarantee the kill, or you shouldn't go for it. So that's it for this video. Next week, we're going to be talking about the other half of Mercy's decision making, which is going to cover Resurrection and Valkyrie. As always, I hope this was helpful, and I will see you all later. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.
He's getting...